Hey, welcome to the Locked In World Cup edition. This is the great show presented by Important Nonsense. I am your co-host, Nii Wallace-Bruce. I am joined by Mr. Zack Tomlinson and Vishaal Gupta. Gents, how are we doing?
Fantastic.
Doing great.
Excellent.
Cannot believe it is World Cup time already.
Let's go.
That's it. We waited 4.5 years to get to this place. And before we get into this, the show is brought to you by first off shop.importantnonsense.com. Use the promo code FOOT to get your holiday gear. I see there's some fantastic threads over there just in time for holiday season. Also, if you want great betting advice, Vishaal is your man when it comes to the NFL. So make sure you join our Discord, patreon.com/importantnonsense, and you can find the great plays from him and the other talented members of our team. Now, before we get into the tournament itself, gents, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? Zach, tell the good people who you are and what you do at Important Nonsense.
Yeah, name's Zack Tomlinson. Big fan of the beautiful game of soccer. Some call it football. Grew up playing it my entire life until it attacked me and took out both of my ACLs, not at the same time, but not good nonetheless. But still love the game to this day. Big fan of FIFA. I play my soccer through FIFA nowadays. And with Important Nonsense, I write articles weekly. Did some stuff on the World Cup earlier. I'm sure we'll discuss some of those talking points, and then do a weekly piece on basically just every week, typically in a given week outside of the World Cup. There's, tons of leagues going on. So there's like thousands of games every week. And so I kind of pick out what are the best like 5 to 6 games every week and why you should make sure you go out of your way to watch those over the other 1,000 games. So, yeah.
All right. V?
Yeah, so I'm one of the NFL betting analysts on the site. Me and Mason do a bunch of stuff over with the NFL betting throughout the week. We have a couple shows on Thursday and Friday just talking about picks and stuff we like for the upcoming weekend. But I'm also a pretty big soccer fan, especially since the 2010 World Cup. That was my first big exposure, and I've just enjoyed it ever since. And then just like Zach, just a big FIFA fan for most of my life. Played a ton of that back in the day. So yeah, every 4 years it's a great time, and it's strange this year, obviously, with it coinciding with the NFL season, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Sundays are going to have an added edge to them with NFL and World Cup matches on.
Blessed time of our lives. Like, we've never had those sports interact, well, on an internet, like World Cup levels. Incredible.
Exactly. Absolutely. As for me, I cover the defensive side of the ball over at Important Nonsense. You can find me talking IDP and a little bit more throughout the season. And as you can see, I'm wearing my Australian kit tonight. I follow the World Cup quite closely. So we'll get into that more. But guys, what are some additional talking points that are on your mind as you head into this tournament? What's got you thinking about the World Cup first and foremost?
Ooh. I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about Ronaldo right now. I feel like we need to at least address this quickly. I am a Manchester United fan, so I feel obviously I'm directly involved from a player and the team perspective. Honestly, don't think it's that big of a deal. Honestly, I haven't watched that interview in its full entirety. I think it got released today. But I don't think, in terms of a World Cup point of view, because there's been videos and stuff about Ronaldo potentially not getting along with his Portuguese teammates like João Cancelo in a video and Bruno in the locker room. I think all that stuff is absolute nonsense. I still think I did a bracket of the World Cup and I had Portugal going very far. So I don't think it's going to affect it at all, but it is definitely possible. And obviously it's already Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the biggest superstars the game has ever seen. So he's already going to have a spotlight on him, but now even more so because of all this stuff. Like, if he doesn't perform well, it's all going to get blunt. If he does perform well and Manchester United look terrible, it's just, I would say that's something I will definitely keep my eye on.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like he's someone that rises to the occasion, and regardless of what's going on, he performs. But once the tournament is over, he may be looking for a new club in January or even
Yeah.
at Christmas time.
Yeah.
V, what's on your mind?
I'm going to go on the flip side of the GOAT conversation, and let's just talk about Messi. I mean, you said this is likely his last World Cup, and wouldn't it just be perfect if he could finish out his international career with the biggest trophy in the game? I think it's fascinating. I think it's a very, very good Argentina squad. We'll get into it when we talk about that group, but I think this is going to be a very fun team. A lot of young players to surround him. I think it'd be very fun, and I think with how he's played recently at PSG this year, I think there was some talk about maybe him tailing off, but I think he's proven a lot of that wrong, and he's playing at just as high level as he always has. So I think both GOAT, players are going to be very fun to watch this World Cup. It should be a primary storyline heading in.
Absolutely. And I'm sure we'll definitely get into him and the Los Albicelestes later on in the show. But for me, the key thing is transition time, because this is the shortest transition time from the European season to a World Cup in history. And the previous comparison would have been in 2002, where we had a 20-day difference between the last Premier League game and the first game of the World Cup. And there were a lot of upsets in that tournament. France went out early, Italy underachieved, Portugal also underachieved. There could be some upsets here as teams or players come off an 8-day turnaround from their last club game in Europe. Now they're going from cold climates to the warmth of Qatar in the Middle East. It's going to be interesting to see who adjusts quickest in that scenario. But without any further ado, let's take a look at Group A. So Group A is host Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and the Netherlands. Netherlands are the favorites. According to FanDuel, they're at minus 195. Vishaal, let's start off with you. What are you seeing from this group?
Yeah, I really like this Netherlands team. I think maybe when we talk about at the end our favorites to win the tournament, I think Netherlands are honestly going to be one of my dark horse picks. They've been very, very good recently. If you look at what they've done over the past couple of years, I think they've only lost 2 games in their last 2 calendar years playing internationally, whether that's in the Euros or playing in the Nations League. I think Memphis Depay is going to be one of the best young superstars in this tournament. You can win some other awards in this tournament. I think the Netherlands has one of the best back lines in the game. They just have so much talent there. There's Virgil van Dijk, Nathan Aki, Daley Blind, all these guys. There's so much talent on the back line. I think they're not going to have any trouble winning this group whatsoever. Especially I think when we talk about Senegal and whether Sadio Mane is going to play, 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, we're not entirely sure. So I think this is a pretty easy group for the Netherlands.
Yeah, it is interesting. You touch on Sadio Mane. He did pick up an injury for Bayern Munich leading into the tournament, but it does seem like he will play some part, although he may miss that opening game against the Netherlands. So when it comes down to it, like you said, the Netherlands should win this group. But if Mane can play those final 2 games against Ecuador and Qatar, you have to think that Senegal are the next team up in terms of progressing from Group A. As Qatar themselves, I've watched a lot of Asian football. I know they're the current Asian champions, but I'm just not convinced. I just don't see them keeping up with the other teams in this group. Zach, what are your thoughts on Group A?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you guys have been saying. I think obviously the Netherlands, like you said, they've been on a incredible run for a long time now. I think to a degree, once the World Cup starts, obviously a lot of that goes out the window. Anything could happen. Senegal, they will miss Sadio Mane, but they have such a strong rest of the roster. Qatar is very interesting. I've not really seen much of them. They've gone out of their way to play in other tournaments across the world leading up to this, so that they get as much exposure playing other teams from other regions as possible, which is a pretty smart move. And they've also, their league season has been postponed, so they haven't played. All their players are completely rested going into it. And like you were talking about, Nii, that could be a huge factor in the first game, in the second game as well, of just having fresher legs. And then they're already, they're going to be so hyped up to represent their country. Everything points towards Qatar not making out of this group, but at the same time, that would be, I believe, the first time in history that's ever happened. And I think there might be a surprise. But that being said, haven't even talked about Ecuador, and I think that they're an extremely good squad as well. So for whoever gets second, I do agree. I think the Netherlands will get first in this one, but I have no idea who will get second in this group. I think we'll learn a lot on the first game on Sunday between Qatar and Ecuador. That's going to be an amazing game. Can't wait.
Absolutely. And the second day brings with it the Group B matches. So Group B, in case you don't know, is England, USA, Wales, and Iran. So that's a few rivalry games in there, even outside of football. But England, you would think, are favourites to go through, but they've lost. They haven't won any of their last 6 games, and they've been relegated from the top line of the UEFA Nations League. That can't be good prep going into this tournament. But on the flip side, they did make the semi-finals of the last World Cup in Russia, and they did make the final of the Euros that were played in their home stadium. Well, finals played in their home stadium. Now, Zach, what are you seeing with the US? Don't be biased here. Give us a rounded opinion of Team USA here.
Well, last time we spoke, we spoke about a man named Ricardo Pepi, and this was a man who is very important to me. Played for FC Dallas. I saw him play live. We're in the same area, and he got snubbed. He got snubbed at this World Cup, and I'm disappointed about that. But on top of that, we have not, like last time we spoke, I was feeling so much better about the United States going into this. Now I'm feeling a little shaky about it, I have to be honest. I mean, our last 2 friendlies, we just did not look anywhere near at our prime, and we really looked like we could be struggling to get points, period, going into this World Cup. So if we play to our potential, I think we go through for sure. I do think England have this group wrapped up, but the reason I don't like Southgate is the reason why I think that England will go through this group, and then they'll also lose in the first round or two due to the same kind of mentality that, we'll get them out of the group. But either way, I'm not feeling as good about the US as I wish I was, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is interesting. I've always wondered if Greg Berhalter has an idea of what his best 11 is. That's what I felt during the CONCACAF qualifying section, that he was always trying to figure out who the best 11 was, and he was kind of piecing it together each game. Now we get to the big dance, and I still wonder if he knows who that best team is, but they pay him the big bucks, and I'm sure he's going to figure it out in time. The
thing that scares me is that I agree with you. He has kind of been doing, each kind of break has been like a bit of an experiment for him. And that's why, like, this group that he brought doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's because Tim Ream hasn't played for the U.S. for over a year, at least. I mean, we have had injuries in that position, and I do feel comfortable with him playing there. I actually kind of hope Tim Ream is our starter. But it makes me question that approach, because he took Haji Wright, Josh Sargent, players that he's overlooked recently, and it's almost like he's just shuffling the deck and just grabbing a card. Whoever plays the forward position that hasn't not scored for me recently, you're coming. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's all part of his plan. Maybe he always thought he would be taking Tim Ream and just wanted to get other guys some minutes. But that's part of the reason I'm feeling a little hesitant about this one, but we'll see.
Now, one thing that is in the US favor is that they have shown up a little bit earlier than compared to some of the other nations, particularly some of the European nations. So, me personally, I think with the conditions being the way they are in the Middle East, in Qatar, I think you need to have that conditioning. I think we saw that in the World Cup playoffs. Peru struggled; they weren't ready for it, whereas Australia were in the 1 game playoff. And I just think that conditions will be more of a factor this tournament than any other. Now, keep in mind that the US does host the next tournament in conjunction with Mexico and Canada. So, would you say that this is more of a building block for 2026, or is US going to go all out in this tournament?
I think it would be understandable if they use this as a building block, just because this is such a young roster. I mean, how many of these guys have World Cup experience? I think very, very few, of almost next to none. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these guys again in 2026. So I think it would make sense to potentially use this more as a building block and figure out who are the actual key players who are going to be the faces of U.S. soccer. Because I agree with what you guys are saying. It seems like there's not a ton of cohesion right now with the roster. There's a lot of changes, a lot of different pieces coming in and out of the lineup. And it's a little disappointing because we saw what they did in 2021 during their Gold Cup run. I mean, they just kind of ran through that competition. They looked so good. And then recently in 2022 is just not good. I mean, they have 0 goals in 3 out of their last 4 friendlies. How you want to be entering a major competition. I'm surprised to see, if you look on the screen, U.S. is plus 100 to qualify. That means they're giving them a 50% chance to qualify. That seems a little high. I wonder if that's just skewed because this is, U.S. betting markets. Obviously, people are going to bet on the U.S., but I don't know. Plus 100 feels a little high. I might go with Wales on that one. I mean, when U.S. plays England, they're going to clearly be outmatched talent-wise. I think when they play Wales is going to have the best player on the field. Like Gareth Bale, even he's a little older, he's still going to be better than anybody the U.S. has out there. So, yeah, I'm also not feeling too great right now about their chances.
Yeah, I would give a long look at Iran to be the team that qualifies with England out of this group. They got Carlos Queiroz there. There's non-football factors as well that's probably motivating the players to want to do well because there's a lot going on at home, but I won't get into that on this show. But one thing that interests me in this group that you two might be interested in is Black Friday next week, England versus USA. It's the day after Thanksgiving. So, boys, tell me, what's your favorite leftover to have on Black Friday after Thanksgiving night?
Ooh. Well, I mean, for me, it's those, I don't even know what they're called. It's like a Thanksgiving sandwich, basically. You guys ever have that? It's basically you put all the leftovers in one sandwich and you just eat that. Put that in the microwave 45 seconds to a minute, 10 seconds or so. Just eat that up. That's yummy. Yeah.
Turkey and stuffing? Yeah.
Ooh.
Is that involved?
Oh, absolutely. What am I, crazy? Yes.
There we go. How about you, V?
Just all the desserts. I go with all the desserts, even Thanksgiving Day and the next day, just finishing up all the leftover desserts. That's where I jump to.
All right. And do you have a favorite dessert? Is there like a goat dessert in the Gupta household?
It's usually some kind of pie. It's a different kind of pie pretty much every year, whether it's apple pie, pumpkin pie, something like that. Usually one of those. So that's usually what I dive into.
All right. Now, speaking of pie, Group C features.
What about you, Nii? What about you?
Oh, all right. So pumpkin pie is quite nice. I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah.
As I touched on, turkey and stuffing is hard to beat. That's if you don't have stuffing, I'm not coming.
Yeah,
I'm not coming. It's just not happening. I need stuffing involved and just even just some of the sides like cornbread and stuff like that. It just makes for a nice night. And turkey's always a crowd pleaser. I know that on the day Dallas will be playing the middle game, but if that's boring, I think there'll be some World Cup to offset it, so that'd be good. On Thursday.
What time is our game?
Circling back to
that's Friday.
The Dallas game?
No.
The England versus USA is
it's like 2 p.m. Eastern or something. It's like right on there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Oh wow, that's prime time
Yep,
in
absolutely.
World Cup terms. That's prime time. The
Mhm.
game of the day. Um, Now, speaking of prime time, Group C features Argentina, they are my prohibitive favorite to win the tournament, and they are also the favorite to win Group C, which features Mexico, Poland, and Saudi Arabia. Does either of you disagree that Argentina's taken out this group? V?
No disagreements. This team has not lost a game in 2 years now in international play. Yeah, this is I think an easy win. I think you can get them at either -225 or -250 to win the group. That seems pretty straightforward and pretty easy pick.
Yeah, and just to touch on that streak, I believe it's currently 36. The Italians are at 30. They can set a new record if they beat uh, Saudi Arabia in terms of the most games undefeated at international level, and their first game is Saudi Arabia. So you would think that that would be the move in the opening game. Now, Zach, this group is a little bit tricky in terms of the team that's going with Argentina. You got Mexico with a perennial round of 16 finishes. They've made the round of 16 every tournament since 1994 at least, because they didn't play in 1990. I think they also made it in 1986 as well. They were banned in 1990. That's right. It's an amazing record. And again, this team is also hosting the next tournament, but this team does have some pedigree here. But then you've also got Miss Lewandowski. He didn't get his Ballon d'Or in 2020, but he did get a number of trophies at Bayern Munich. He's been scoring goals. He demanded a transfer to Barcelona. He's still scoring goals there, even though the team's not as prolific in terms of winning. Will he finally break through with Poland on the international stage of the World Cup?
Well, he's going to need to. He's going to need to if Poland wants to do anything in this group. I mean, I'm thinking that I believe that if Mexico were to get second, Poland would get third, and vice versa. So I think that it's really going to come down to if anyone can squeak a point out of Argentina, which Argentina is definitely. I think that they might win this entire thing, so that they shouldn't have any problems in this group. But even if they get 7 points, it's still a good showing from them. But I think it will come down to the game Mexico versus Poland, and I think Poland has better quality all around. I think they definitely have the best player, and I don't know if Mexico can really stop Lewandowski, especially if Poland are operating in the way that they need to just give him opportunities. So as long as Poland's doing that, I think that they'll go through. Lewandowski will find a way, but they haven't always been at their best in these types of tournaments. And I don't really like going against Mexico's streak to not continue. A streak like that, I'm not going to get in the way of that. You know what I mean? So I feel like Mexico will find a way. But it is a tough group, man. And yeah, I think Poland are the better team in my opinion, but I think Mexico will find a way to get it done, just because of history and things like that.
Yeah, history, and again, playing in hot conditions, I kind of have to tip the scales in the favor of Mexico, but we'll see. We will see. Let's move on to Group D, an interesting group in itself. Yeah, so Australia are part of that group, as well as the defending champions France, Denmark, and Tunisia. So I have some thoughts on this, but we're going to get into that later. Zach, what's your take on Group D?
I feel like I might be picking up what you're putting down a little bit. Part of me looks at this, and so every group up to this point, there's been one clear group winner, and then a bit of a mystery box in terms of who gets second. In this group, I feel like obviously France, the reigning champs, are there, and you would maybe think that's the lock to win the group. But yeah, I almost think Denmark should borderline be the favorite. I mean, probably not, but I like their odds. I'll put it that way. And I have a bad feeling about France. They've been known to kind of implode in the past. This is like a brand new team. A lot of the players that led them to the World Cup last year, pivotal players aren't there. This like for them right now. N'Golo Kante comes to mind. I think they'll go through France, but I think Denmark will top this group.
Yeah, Denmark with Christian Eriksen back in the fold. He's seemingly back to full fitness after his tragic the way his Euro 2020 ended so tragically. But he's back. It's good to see him back and doing what he loves. V, how do you see Group D?
Yeah, this one's interesting. It also includes one of the more fascinating trends, maybe in all of sports. I'm sure you guys are aware, but in each of the last 3 World Cups, the previous winner has not made it out of the group stage. It is remarkable to see that it's happened 4 years and then 4 years and then 4 years. It's hard to imagine this France team not getting out. I mean, even with some of the losses in the midfield with Pogba and Kante, this team is just so good. I mean, their B team could probably get out of some of these groups. That's how deep they are and how talented they are. But I think I found in some places you can get plus 700 for France to not qualify out of this group. And I think it might be worth a couple bucks just because, again, this trend is just insane for the previous 3 champs to not make it out of the group stage of the following tournament. But in order for that to happen, you would need Tunisia or Australia to be able to qualify. And it's tough to see that happening. Maybe if Australia still had Tim Cahill, I would like to go with that. But without Cahill this year, it's tough. It's tough to see France not making it out.
Yeah, Tim Cahill is a team ambassador this time around, so maybe he's teaching someone his magical ways of how to score clutch headers at the death. But in any case, when I look back at the 3 defending champions that didn't make it out, you look at Italy in 2010, Germany in 2014, it's Germany in 2018. Sorry, correct myself.
Spain in 2014.
So Spain in 2014, that was a tough group. They had Holland, they had Chile, and they had Australia as well, funnily enough. So I would put that down to a tough group. As for Italy and Germany, I feel like it was a lack of focus. Germany was definitely infighting. The way Ozil was disrupting things was not helpful for their cause. They weren't ready. And Italy, I mean, we've seen it with the squad after the Euros, how they have failed to qualify for the last 2 World Cups. It's just, I think it's just a generational thing. They go in waves. And so coming to the French case, not having Pogba and Conte is, so one might say it's offset by the inclusion of Camavinga and Tchouaméni, the 2 Real Madrid midfielders. I do believe that Denmark wins this group, though. Denmark is a strong team. I do think that if they had Eriksen in Euro 2020 played in 2021, they do make the final. They do beat England in their semi. They possibly win that tournament, to be honest. But fast forward to this tournament, I don't see how Denmark doesn't get results against Tunisia and Australia, and they could potentially upset the French. Now, Tunisia and Australia are accustomed to playing in these conditions. I'm going to keep coming back to this, but I can see one of them upsetting France. Not necessarily beating them, but definitely tying against them. So, if I saw Denmark winning the group and then Tunisia squeezing into second, it wouldn't surprise me. If France were in second, that also wouldn't surprise me. But I think that's for Denmark to win the group. That's
plus 300. It's not a bad bet. 3-1 is a solid bet there for Denmark to win this one.
Absolutely.
What do you think will happen there, Nii?
Let's in terms of
who gets second in that group if you had to choose.
So yeah, if you put a gun to my head, who's going to win the group? Okay, so let's map this one out properly then. I was looking at this before, but let's. Because the first game between Australia, I do think Australia will be a lot more competitive against France than people think. They played them last tournament. If they lose by a goal, wouldn't surprise me. I don't think it's going to be a walkover. So then the opening game between Denmark and Tunisia is crucial. I would see Denmark winning that. Mm-hmm. Then fast forward to later in the tournament, we have
just a side note as you're looking that up. I mean, Denmark is like, I feel like they're going to be a team that plays like a club team during this tournament, where to the point where, like, you know, obviously, like if like the top teams in this tournament, like Argentina, Brazil, Portugal, like if they could play like Manchester City, I feel like every international team would do that. And just dominate every team that they play against, but it's too hard. You have too many rotated players. They're not all on the same page. The age gap and all the rotation and whatnot. It's too hard to get that done on a great level. But I feel like Denmark are going to be like one of the best examples of how an international team can like operate above the sum of its parts. Kind of like how Germany did in the past, where it almost doesn't matter who's there because they all know what they're doing. And so I feel like that's going to be Denmark in this World Cup.
Yeah, they just have that system that they're well coached. They have a system that everyone understands, and players can seamlessly slot into it. So that's why they're my team to take out the group. We're looking at the second, I guess, rotation of matches in Group D. It's Australia versus Denmark. So I'm going to take Denmark to win that one. Again, it'll be closer than we think. It might be like 2-1, maybe 3-2 to Denmark. But this is the one where I think Tunisia can spring a surprise on France. If France haven't acclimatized properly yet, this is where Tunisia can get a point, snatch a draw, or even get a win. And then you go to the final round of matches a few days later. It's Denmark versus France. And France could be playing for their lives at that point. And you get Australia versus Tunisia. So looking at the depth of the squads, it pains me to say it, but I'm probably going to have to take Tunisia in that one. And then again, we might get a draw between Denmark and France. So France might be out of luck at that point. So to answer your question, Zach, and based off my fuzzy logic there, we're going with Denmark and Tunisia.
I love it. I will be watching closely. I'll be rooting for it a little bit. I mean, if France do get knocked out in this group, for A, the streak continues, which we love that. And B, that would mean that one of Tunisia and Australia go through, which, I mean, that's nuts. That's crazy.
Right?
Absolutely. Sign me up.
Yeah, let's get some new faces in the knockout rounds.
Already 23 years old, and we are already tired.
Two-form world champion. What's that?
No, I was just saying we already tired of seeing Mbappe. He's only 23 years old, and we already talking about him getting knocked out early.
Right? Yeah. Now, speaking of teams that got knocked out early, we touched on Spain and Germany before. Two-form world champions that went out the following tournament. Now here they are in Group E, along with Costa Rica and Japan. This is a lot tighter than I think many of us might think. Spain are the favorites, but you can never count out Germany. Japan are seemingly the best team outside of Europe and South America. And Costa Rica, remember, they made the quarterfinals in 2014, and they have a number of those players around. So, what's your take in Group E?
Yeah, this one is quite difficult. This might be the sneaky group of death when we end up talking about the rest of the groups. It could be Group E. I think this one's very tough. I think anytime though you get Germany at plus money to win the group, you kind of just have to take it. Right now you're getting them at plus 120. I think it's hard to pass on them. Their midfield is still fantastic. You have Leroy Sané, Thomas Muller, Goretzka, and then the return of Mario Götze out of kind of nowhere, just making his return to the German national team. This is going to be a very, very good team. Neuer still in goal. I do really like Spain, but they're young. I mean, they're just very, very young with the guys they have with Fati, Rodri, Gavi, Pedri. These guys are no doubt talented, but they have not played in a tournament with this importance yet. And then maybe next World Cup they could be the odds-on favorite just because of how good and young they are. But right now, I think it might be a little too early to have them as the favorites to win this group. And then, yeah, Japan and Costa Rica are definitely not teams you can overlook. You mentioned Costa Rica. They still have Joel Campbell, Brian Ruiz, and Keylor Navas coming back. And like you said, they qualified in 2014. That was one of the most surprising qualifications when you see who else was in that group with Italy, England, and Uruguay. I mean, unbelievable. So you can't be surprised if they do it again this year because we saw it happen in 2014.
Absolutely. And yeah, you never count out Germany, no matter what their leading has been like. They qualify for a start. They're always there, and then when they're there, they're always competitive. Zach, what are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I don't think that there is a bad group in this entire World Cup. I'll just point that out. I think every group is incredible. This is I think this is probably for me like the third toughest group, which is saying a lot. I could definitely see one of Spain or Germany not going through. I mean, we've talked about upsets that have happened in history, and there's just no doubt that it's going to happen. So sometimes the things that don't make sense when we look at it now is what ends up taking place. So, and wouldn't even be that crazy if one of those two teams didn't go through, Spain or Germany. But I mean, if I'm putting money on it, I can't not pick both of those two teams to go through. I don't know in what order. I feel like again, I think that play styles on an international level, sometimes you're built to play in the group stage. Sometimes you're built for knockout games, like one-off games. So I think Spain is a team that's built for the group stage. I would probably give them an edge to get first in this one. I think that the youth that they have, like Pedri and Javi and Ferran Torres and Fati, I think that they're all ready to they haven't played on this level, but they're ready to show that they deserve to be on this level. I could see them winning the group, and then I think Germany would get second. But I would back Germany to go further in the tournament just because of the team that they have, the history that they have, also like a deep desire to make amends for what happened last time around. Was a disappointment for the entire country, for all their players. It's very similar to the U.S. The U.S. players are going to feel like they owe us one a little bit for not qualifying, even though none of them were even there, for the most part. But that's just part of it. And I think Germany will show up and play really well, and I think that they'll make a run in this tournament. So,
yeah, that's the thing. It will be interesting. I must admit, I got a different take on this one. I got Germany coming out of this group. I got them winning it. But I've got Japan running Spain very close. So I wouldn't put it past the Japanese surprising Spain. They would need a little bit of luck. But the way they've been progressing over the last decade or so, I think it has been a bit underrated outside of Asia. And
Japan, Sorry, I'm going to interrupt real quick just because I want to give Japan credit. I was reminded of last World Cup, how they got knocked out. They were beating Belgium 2-0 up until like the 71st.
One of the great games of that tournament.
Absolutely incredible. And that's how close they were to beating a team that finished, I think, third. Finished third last World Cup. And Belgium just came back and like you guys said, a miracle comeback, scored 3 goals in the last 15, 20 minutes, but sorry, go on. Just wanted to give them a shout out.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They've had a pretty good youth setup as well. The players coming through this, their pipeline it's not too far off compared to the Spanish. It's just that we don't hear as much about their players as we do the Spanish youth players. So definitely don't count the Japanese out. Now, fellas, this is actually the last 32-team World Cup that we're going to see. because the next tournament is going to be 48 teams. So I think, yeah, we're going to see Costa Rica probably next time around. It also helps that the next three co-hosts are from CONCACAF. So you can think that Costa Rica are.
How is Italy going to find a way to not make a 48-team tournament?
Oh, Italy will find a way to not make a tournament. I don't know how, but they'll find a way. Jeez. I think there'll be a national inquiry if they miss a third World Cup in a row.
Better be. Yeah.
No, I'm sure they'll be there this next time in 2026. Another team that will be there will be Canada. They're part of Group F, so that's with Morocco, Croatia, and Belgium. As Americans, what's your take on the Canadian team? V?
I know that they have been one of the better teams in CONCACAF. They've kind of made that rise, and they've kind of challenged U.S. and Mexico as one of the top teams in that group. Ultimately, they probably don't have enough talent right now outside of Alphonso Davies to really compete in this group, but I think they're a team that could be on the rise and could be leading CONCACAF during the next round of tournament in 2026.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they won the qualifying group this time around. Zach, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just feel like Canada got dealt one of the worst hands out of any team in this entire World Cup. Like for me, this group, I don't know if it's the group of death, but it is the most it's like Shakespeare himself picked out all four of these teams because it's so sad that this is the group that they're all in. Like Canada, what is the first World Cup in like forever? Like maybe ever? I don't know. Maybe I think they had one in the 80s or
First since
something.
1986, yeah.
Okay. So basically their first one ever, second one ever. But Morocco is like an incredible team to watch. Such a random team with like great players that play entertaining football. Croatia, obviously everyone knows about Croatia. And then Belgium. Like it's just, every one of these. I could see any of these teams not make it out of the group. I could see all of them make it out in any position. Like anything could happen in this group. I think Canada is great though. I really wish that we could like move them somewhere else. Because you guys might be right. I think it's going to be an off year for Croatia. One of these teams has to go. I think one of Morocco or Canada goes through, but I really have no clue about this group. I'm just excited. I think every game's going to be amazing. I think upsets will happen for sure. It's going to be so tight. I think Belgium will win, but yeah, I can't wait. Group F is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, and Steve Nash timed his run perfectly with the Brooklyn Nets. He's now out of the NBA for the time being, and he gets to watch the World Cup. So how good is that? He doesn't have to deal with the drama in BK. Now, Canada, they have a strong attacking section with, as you mentioned, David Davies, Carl Laren. Centre back is a bit of a concern, but then the same can be said of Belgium, and with their aging back line. So when Canada does play Belgium in that opening game, they can just try and get in behind that back four early and often, get a goal early, they can dare to dream. Considering that Romelu Lukaku is also injured, that's another factor for me that does give me pause with Belgium, because I keep hearing about this golden generation, keep hearing about this team that's destined to be so great, but I just haven't seen it. I haven't seen it over the last 8 to 10 years. And this is probably, their time has probably passed, but they got one last shot with this tournament.
Well, third place, not too bad though. To be fair.
Third place in 2018. That was a good run. Tough loss to France in the semis.
They would have liked to have finished higher, but was it to France? I think, yeah. So it
was. Mm-hmm.
Not terrible. Maybe they'll look at it like they can build off of that in this tournament, And I don't know who would be Lukaku is on the team, so are they expecting maybe he's just out the first game or two?
Yeah, he is struggling with fitness, so it'll be interesting to see who the next man up would be, whether they would go with Hazard or someone else in that spot. Maybe try a false nine. I wouldn't put past Roberto Martinez or something like that.
Trossard has been scoring at will in the Premier League for Brighton, so maybe just put him up top or something. But that is a concern, yeah. And that minute detail like that, like missing, your number one striker, could be the difference between making it out of this group or not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we know what Croatia bring to the table. They got stellar pedigree. They got Luka Modric, Ivan Perisic up front. For a nation of their population, they punch above their weight in terms of international tournaments. Again, like Denmark, they're a team that to watch in terms of a surprise group winner, in my opinion. What do you guys think about that?
They're in good form lately. I think they went 4-1-1 in their Nations League games this year, so they're playing well. 2 of those games came against France, where they had 1 win, 1 draw, so they're playing well. They came second in 2018. It's hard to overlook them. I think Modric is going to be consistently one of the best players on the field at any given time. So, yeah, this group is insanely tough. Hard to pass on any of them, really. But yeah, I think Belgium will still be a tough out, even with Lukaku out. I think De Bruyne is probably the best player in the world right now. So whenever he's playing, you can't ever count Belgium out right now. So who knows with this group, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of many of these groups. I feel like there's balance. The games will be worth watching, and especially with the advent of VAR, as you saw in the last tournament, there'll be goals. Teams can sit back if they want to, but the television match official will have his say if there is a contentious decision, and we might see penalties. Teams will have to open up, and I'm looking forward to seeing what teams do when they are faced with adversity. If there's a surprise goal that goes in, how they respond to that. But yeah, I can't wait for this to kick off, to be honest.
Well, that there will be surprise goals too. It's not even a net. It's a lock. It's definitely going to happen. I cannot wait. Like, you can never. I've like gone through and looked at like what teams have disappointed in recent years in World Cups, and to be honest, maybe until knockouts, but in the group stage of last World Cup, it was pretty straightforward. Like the teams that you figured would run away with it kind of ran away with it. There's a couple upsets. Germany was an upset, but for the most part, kind of what you expected for the most part is what happened. I think that this World Cup, like last World Cup, was the World Cup of own goals. I think there was like 13 own goals in the last World Cup.
They were. Own goal was the top goal scorer.
Yeah. I think this World Cup is going to be just madness at the group stage. Just absolute mayhem. Upsets probably every day of group stage.
Yeah, I think that 7 or 8 day turnaround from club football to international football, some teams are going to get caught out. The question is, who's going to be caught out? And I know we're prognosticating here, but when it's all said and done, the round of 16 may have a few surprises. So looking forward to seeing who those may be. Now, Cameroonian legend Samuel Eto'o has tipped his country to win the tournament, but I believe he's still involved in the administration of Cameroonian football, so he has to say that. But they're in Group G with Switzerland, Serbia, and Brazil. Zach, what's your take on this group?
Well, it may shock you to hear that I think that this group is incredible. This is another one of the top contenders for the group of death for me. Switzerland gives me very Denmark-y vibes. The same sentiment I've said about Denmark, just in how they play as a team, punch above their weight. I think they've beaten France like 2 of the last 3 times that they've played them, whether it's Nations League or in the Euros. They knocked them out of the Euros. Came from behind against France in the Euros to beat them. Reigning World Cup champions, by the way. So anyway, they're very good. But I also really like Serbia in this group. I think Serbia, they have Vlahovic, Dusan Vlahovic, or no, whatever his first name. Vlahovic on Juventus. They have Dusan Tadic at Ajax, and they have Alexander Mitrovic at Fulham, who's been a man inspired so far this season. So I just like that combination of attacking players. It's very similar to Canada, how they have like a front 3, very lethal, and especially in international play, against these back lines, I think they're going to cause a lot of problems. So, but then you have Cameroon as well, a lot younger than they've been in the past, and desperate to, again, kind of like Germany, although not at the same level, but they want to make amends for recent appearances and go on a run again. So, very tight group. I think that game, Serbia versus Switzerland, is going to be an amazing match. But I personally, I'm a big fan of Brazil going into this tournament. I think that they will go about as far as you can go. And I think they won't have any problems against these teams. I think just the way that they're built, Brazil is going to score multiple goals every game that they play. And I don't know if all the teams in this group can score multiple goals. So it's going to be very tight, but I'm excited for this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, Brazil. I mean, since the dawn of the World Cup era, Brazil's best defense has always been through attack, and they will always venture to score more goals before trying to stop them going in. V, what's your take on this group?
Yeah, very fascinating. I believe Brazil, Serbia, and Switzerland were all in the same group last time, right? In 2018, they were all in the same group then. So it's very fascinating that they'll kind of have a reunion this year. But yeah, it makes sense Brazil to be at the top of this group. I think they probably have the second best roster coming in behind only France. Very deep, just very talented, top to bottom. And then, of course, the conversation is going to be between Switzerland and Serbia. I think the only real difference I can point out between the two is just Switzerland has probably played better competition recently than Serbia has, whether it's Euros or Nations League. Switzerland has wins over Spain and Portugal in Nations League, while Serbia has 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss, but they didn't really play anybody in their group there in one of the lower levels. So they might just not have enough. They might not be as well prepared just because of their lack of competition. So if you're trying to find a difference between the two, it's going to be difficult. I mean, you can look at the odds right there. They're both minus 110 to qualify. So, they're viewed very similarly. You're going to have to find some very, very small differences if you're going to want to pick one or the other to make it out of this group.
Absolutely. And it's worth noting as well that Brazil did win the last World Cup that was hosted in Asia or by the Asian Confederation. They've also won tournaments in North America, Mexico as well, and of course South America when they won in Chile. So they're not averse to winning in new locations or new frontiers in football. But Serbia, I want to talk about Mitrovic because he's been prolific for Fulham for at least a season and a half now. He's very prolific in the Championship, almost like a goal every 2 games, and he's continued that in the Premier League. If Serbia can just find a way out of the group, Mitrovic is a sneaky golden boot contender, in my humble opinion.
Let's see what the odds are on that. Give me a second here.
But then when you look at for sure. Well, just while you do that, Switzerland, they've always been a team that has worked hard on not losing as opposed to winning. We'll see if that style changes up this tournament, but they're very hard to break down, that's for sure. And hopefully Cameroon, they're united this tournament, because previous tournaments there's been infighting and that's translated to the field, and it's quite embarrassing, quite frankly. What they're very talented when they're a team that's focused on football and football only.
Yeah.
Plus 5,000 for Mitrovic if you want to take that one. It's 50 to 1. Might as well put a couple bucks on it.
Okay. All right. Worth the flyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good odds. I mean, it's possible. I can see a way that happens for sure. But it would be tough.
Because you look at the previous Golden Boot winners, it's usually been 5 or 6 goals. Typically 6 goals, but you get to 6 and you're in the frame. So you can definitely get there.
Do you know if he takes penalties for Serbia?
That one, I have to double check, but it definitely does Fulham. I'm sure he'd definitely be looking for the ball if a penalty was given.
Yeah.
He'd be walking towards a spot. I don't know if
they'd have
an argument. It definitely would be an argument. One of the next teams we're going to talk about, Portugal. They're in Group H with Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. So you would think that Ronaldo will take penalties for Portugal. Could you see a scenario where Bruno takes penalties instead?
He shouldn't. Should be Ronaldo. Bruno's penalty record is not actually that great. I'd back him in a shootout, but yeah, if Ronaldo's on the pitch, you might as well just let him take the penalty. I'd say if I'm Bruno, I'd let him take it.
Yeah, don't put him 5th like they did a couple tournaments ago. Make sure he's in the top 3, so at least he gets a chance.
Yeah. No, he'll he's money. He'll make the penalty for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, as we said at the top, Ronaldo arrives to this camp after leaving a storm behind in Manchester. And I'm not talking about the weather. Yeah, that's a contentious interview with Piers Morgan. I don't know why you talked to Piers Morgan in the first place, but anyway, he had the interview. It's going to be released shortly. He had a lot to say. People aren't happy. He's probably looking for a new club when he gets back. The World Cup's probably a timely distraction. This will likely be Ronaldo's last World Cup. Does he go out in a high? Does he get to the finals? Does he get to the semifinals? Does he get out of the group? What are you guys seeing in this group? Zach?
Yeah, I think for me, it's a little bit different. It's different for we talked about both the GOATs. It's different for both of them going into this tournament than it has been for either of them going into any other tournament they've ever been in. Because in the past, when they were young, it was like that both the teams were like their team. Like they were pretty much the best player, and all the hopes rode on those two players to carry that team country to glory. Ronaldo was successful in doing that, dragging them to the Euro final and them going on to win that, and then Argentina with the Copa. But now, neither of those two players, like I would say, I don't think Ronaldo is the best player on Portugal. A year ago, I would have said Messi wasn't the best player on Argentina, although I do think that he is now. Again, he's kind of regained that. He's playing at the peak of his powers right now. So, but I still don't think Ronaldo is the best player on Portugal today going into this tournament. They don't need him to be, though. That's the beauty of it. They have such a strong team all around him. So many young players that are just dying to prove themselves. Rafael Leao, I'm excited to watch in this tournament. Yeah, it's similar. They just need to get the ball into the box, give him opportunities in the box just to shoot. He doesn't need to dribble. He doesn't need to pass to anybody. You know, the rest of the team take care of all of that. Ronaldo is well suited for international football right now. Very basic, just straightforward. You know, cross it, get it to him. He shoots and scores. So I think that it is well suited for him to succeed. It's a tough group, but Portugal are very stacked in every position. World-class players. It doesn't like Ronaldo is just a piece of the puzzle. He's not the main ingredient for me.
Indeed. But he's a very influential component. Now, one player who won't be there for Portugal is Diego Jota. Liverpool marksman. Vishaal, is that going to be detrimental for them in terms of getting out of the group, or is it not going to matter?
Yeah, I had it marked down as definitely a concern for me overall. I think I really, really want to like this Portugal team, but I mean, since 2016, when they did win that Euros, it's been a little disappointing. They didn't have an overall great showing, I think, in the 2021 Euros. And then if you look at their team over the last couple of years and their performance, they really only have one good, solid win in the last 2 years over Switzerland. I think this team is not performing very well right now, even though Zach is definitely right that they have top tier talent. They definitely are the most talented team in this group. I don't know. I'm a little concerned with Portugal right now. I see they're getting plus 350 to not qualify. I think that's could be an interesting bet, but I think a lot of that depends on if Son is playing for South Korea and what his injury status looks like. I think if Son's not going to be there, Korea's not going to have any sort of chance. And then, Ghana has lost a lot of players that they had during their previous runs in 2010, 2014. So Portugal might just advance just out of default, but I don't know. I'm not as high on them as Zach seems to be right now. I think they just haven't performed very well recently in my eyes.
Yeah, now Son will be there with South Korea. He's seen him training with a mask. He's going to be.
He might miss like the first game, I think, is what I read. But yeah, he should.
He's got the Batman look. Reminds you of Rip Hamilton from the Pistons days. Now, Ghana, I have a soft spot for Ghana, but you're right. They have lost personnel in recent times, and they've lost their way. They couldn't get out of the group in the African Cup of Nations at the start of the year. They've had turnover of management. The youth system hasn't produced the players that it has in the past, but they do have that revenge game against Uruguay. We all remember that game in 2010 where Luis Suarez threw his hands up, and it was the hand of God 2.0 as Uruguay marched onto the semifinals at Ghana's expense. I might be a little bitter. Anyway, what has Uruguay got much left, Zach? What they got going on in Uruguay?
I mean, I think that they're well on their way with a new rebuild already. They're in a weird transition where they do have a lot of older players, but they're anchored by their youth. And Valverde from Real Madrid, kind of do it all midfielder, right back, right wing, don't even know what his position is. And Darwin Nunez, striker at left wing at Liverpool, plays just attacking, on the attacking line. So those are two players that are, how they perform will determine where Uruguay ends up in this tournament. They also have great options with veteran experience off the bench, both attacking and defensively. They're a very strong squad. I think that they are a potential dark horse in this tournament. They could go quite far. I mean, they finished third in South American qualifying to Brazil and Argentina. I think Brazil and Argentina are the two top dogs, and they were just behind them in qualifying themselves. So they play well, and yeah, I think there is a lot of older players that, like, next World Cup, we'll need to see a lot more changes in replacing them. But as of right now, I think it's kind of good timing for them, a little bit of a mix between experience and youth for this team. So we'll see how it plays out for them, though.
Yeah. Now, which Darwin Nunez are we going to see at this tournament? Are we going to see the one that dominated for Benfica, or are we going to see the one that can be easily riled up and someone who's you can get into his head, as we've seen at Liverpool at times this season?
I think we're going to see the good Nunez in this one. I think he's going to have a lot of opportunities in this tournament to kind of be the star. They still have Suarez and Cavani obviously up front, but those guys are 35 years old, so you can't expect them to kind of handle the full load. So I think it's going to allow Nunez to be the star here, where, in Liverpool, obviously you have guys like Salah, Firmino, and all these other guys who you have to play alongside and kind of be the Robin to their Batman. But in Uruguay, he'll have the chance to kind of become the star and kind of become the face of Uruguay as a team. So I think we're going to get a very good performance from him in this tournament.
All right. I look forward to that. Look forward to seeing the young players coming through. Now, how are we feeling, fellas? How are we feeling at this point as we come to the end of the groups?
Confused, excited, nervous. Part of me is forgetting that the U.S. is in this tournament. And I'm nervous about other teams and players, and then I'm like, oh my god, I gotta worry about. I just remember last World Cup, just watching every game and just being sick to my stomach, at about an hour, 2 hours before the game started. So nervous, and then never caring more about a match of soccer in my entire life. And I know it's going to happen again on Monday. We're just right back in it again. It's just going to be nerve-wracking, and I hope that I'm wrong with us, and I hope that we come out guns a-blazing and just light it up, because we are capable of doing it. We haven't seen it for too long. So
absolutely, yeah. It's a weird feeling when your nation doesn't make it to the World Cup. It's kind of like you've been invited to the dance, but you don't have a partner. So you're gonna have to sit on the sidelines or stand on the wall while
you get to enjoy these other teams with their star players doing their thing.
Yeah, it's nice to be in this one, though. I'm glad we're here for this one.
Mm-hmm. And you'll be in the next one, and with 48 teams, you'll probably be in the next few to come. But this is a unique tournament, given that it's in November, finishing in December, about 10 to 12 days before the January transfer window opens. Now, one thing we usually see after a World Cup is players finding new homes, clubs, sometimes overpaying for said play, moving on in January, and maybe getting that World Cup premium. V?
Don't have any players in mind, but yeah, I mean, who's going to be that guy this year? Who's going to be the James Rodriguez this year, who had that fantastic World Cup but just couldn't live up to it? Don't have any players necessarily in mind right now, but I think it'll be fascinating to see.
Right.
I got a big one.
Zach?
I got a big one for this. Is Jesper Lindstrom from plays on Denmark. He plays for Eintracht Frankfurt in the Bundesliga. And he is very good. He's 22 years old, so he's in contention to win best young player of the tournament. But yeah, he's very good, and he's an attacking player. I feel like on teams like Denmark and like Switzerland, the problem is not like defense, midfield, or goalkeeping. It's really just like beating players like right outside the box in a position where you beat this one guy and you can shoot. You're in on goal. And he's a player that excels at that. Dribbling, shooting is pretty good. He's very cheeky. I think he's the type of player, if he goes to penalties, don't be surprised if he does that little chip over the goalie. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, the Panenka.
Panenka, exactly. Yeah, so that's a player I feel like will definitely get picked up by one of the top dogs, especially after this tournament. I think he's going to have a breakout tournament here. So I'm really excited to watch him play.
There we go. I actually like Nico Williams from Ghana. I might be biased here, but he's grew up in Bilbao. His brother plays for Spain, Iñaki Williams. But I think in a team that is tipped to struggle, he will be a shining light for them, and he's one to watch. There's going to be a couple of guys. Jamal Musiala. I'm not saying he's going to get transferred, but I think he's another young player that will be lighting it up for Germany.
Jude Bellingham
for
England.
Game time.
Bellingham is an absolute
Bellingham.
Animal in the midfield, does it all. He's going to be I mean, Southgate is the type of manager. I wouldn't be surprised if Bellingham like doesn't play at all, just because Southgate needs Maguire and all the other players in there. But if Bellingham does play, he's gonna light it up. He's amazing.
Yeah. Well, looking forward to seeing the next generation come through. So let's get to some longer predictions or some futures, if you will. Who's the winner? Who are we tipping to win it all? I'll go first, and I'll say Argentina off the bat. I think they're set up from front to back. Big fan of Emilio Martinez in goal. But Lionel Messi, obviously. You may have heard of him. He's good at football. But who else are you looking at to win the World Cup in this edition?
I agree with Argentina for sure. I think they're my favorites to win this whole thing. I think Lautaro Martinez is going to become a household name possibly after this tournament. I think him and Messi are just going to have a fantastic connection this tournament. One of my deeper sleepers, though, like I said at the top, is Netherlands. I think I really like this team top to bottom, and I think they can go far. I wish they still had Wijnaldum this tournament. His connection with Depay during the Euros was fantastic. Unfortunately, he's going to be out, but I still think this team is pretty rock solid all throughout. So you can get them, between plus 1,200, plus 1,500, depending on where you look. So I like the Netherlands.
Yeah, it's a shame that Ryan Gravenberch didn't make the squad. He was formerly of Ajax, transferred to Bayern Munich over the summer. Hasn't had the game time sufficient to make this squad. Louis van Gaal's very particular about that, evidently. But I felt that if he did make the squad, he would have been one of those young names to watch for sure. He's definitely very talented, and hopefully he's at the next World Cup in 2026. Zach, who's your tip to win it all?
Yeah, I mean, I think Argentina, but I won't pick them just because everybody's picking them. So I think Brazil is like better than I can remember Brazil being for like 10 plus years easily. Like they are incredible. So I would not be surprised at all if they're just proved to be an unstoppable force. But that being said, when I was doing my bracket, I ended up with an Argentina-Portugal final, and I picked Portugal to win the final. I think.
Oh my goodness!
I think Messi will be the player of the tournament. I think he's going to carry them all the way through, be amazing the whole way. Just thinking that one game, Ronaldo is going to produce.
This is like picking North Carolina Duke and to play in the championship game, but that kind of happened. We saw them in the Final Four, and it happened with the World Cup. That would be
exactly.
amazing.
I did get to the semifinals, and it kind of became a non-decision for me just because how beautiful of a story is that? If both of them end their World Cup playing against each other,
that would be the most watched sporting event of all time.
But also, we deserve that. We deserve that game, and I'm hoping that I can kind of bring it to life. Just by picking it, I hope I can make it happen because we do deserve that matchup. It's just mouthwatering. Please.
I think if Argentina and Portugal made the final, I think faces would melt online. I think
it would be
the Messi truthers and the Ronaldo apologists wouldn't be insufferable. It would be wars would be started before you can get to kick off online.
At least it would finally end the debate, though, right? Whoever wins would have to be the GOAT, no matter what. No arguments there.
Yes, it's the closing of the book. Whoever wins that game, it's done. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. And would you take either of them to win the Golden Boot, especially considering that they typically take penalties for their respective nations?
I would not take Ronaldo. No. I don't think he's going to have a particularly good tournament. I just think if they like I said, he's going to get. I don't want to say carried, but the team around him is going to. I'm thinking that they're going to do really well, and he's just going to be there in pivotal moments. I think Messi. Yeah, you say Golden Boot. Yeah. I don't know about. I think Golden Ball for Messi. I'm not sure about the Golden Boot.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. The Golden Ball as well, yeah, the best player. And then There's also the best keeper award. I forget the award. I want to say it's Golden Gloves, but
Yeah,
I'm
Golden
confusing that
Gloves.
with baseball. Okay, cool. Golden Gloves. So, I mean, Manuel Neuer is always in contention for that.
Yep.
Maybe
Courtois.
Emi Martinez.
Yeah, Emiliano Martinez, absolutely. He was very instrumental in the Copa America victory. And
I feel Argentina's defense is extremely solid. I feel like that's a pretty good.
Yeah,
Good
plus
look.
700. That's not a bad payout.
okay, all right, definitely going to take a look at that. Emiliano Martinez, remember the name, folks. Arsenal fans know him well. Aston Villa fans probably know him a bit better nowadays. Okay, all right. Any other bold predictions you want to throw out there before the tournament kicks off? Speak now or hold your silence.
I do personally just want to get on record. I believe I have Denmark in the semifinals as well, or maybe the quarterfinal. Denmark's going places in this tournament. They are quarterfinals, semifinals for sure, maybe further for me, and I'm rooting for them. Let's go Denmark.
Okay. I don't have any big bold predictions. I think this is going to be a very, very fun tournament, and I would just warn people: do not be surprised if France fails to make it out of the group stage. We talked about it a lot, but I think coming in, a lot of casuals are just going to kind of pencil them in to make it probably to at least the semifinals. Just don't be shocked if they stumble before they get that far.
Yeah, I think there might be a couple of teams that'll be booking trips home earlier than predicted or earlier than anticipated, and that's the beauty of it. That's going to be the fun of it. It's almost like an any given Sunday feel that this tournament's going to have. Shout out to Jeff Saturday, by the way, getting his first win in the NFL with zero coaching experience outside of high school.
I like how any given Sunday reminded you of that, but yeah.
Yeah, any given Saturday. Let's go with that. Anyway, going back to the round ball and my train of thought here, which I just lost because I was thinking of the Colts, and yes, the confusing Colts have confused me. Hang on.
Anyway, do you have any bold predictions,
me? Yes, thank you. Thank you for getting me back on track, V. That's why you're here. You can find V and all his good stuff over at importantnonsense.com. But my bold prediction is that every confederation, so AFC for Asia, CAF for Africa, CONMEBOL, South America, UEFA for Europe, and CONCACAF for North and Central America will have a representative in the round of 16.
Wow. That's a bold one.
It's going to happen. Hold me to it. In fact, we should probably have a show at some point during the group stage. Our producer is going to either yell at me or say, yeah, let's do it, but we can take it offline. But in the meantime, that does it for this World Cup preview show. Thank you for listening and watching. We appreciate your time and your attention. We'll have more shows on during the tournament, so do stay tuned to this channel and to our website where you can find all our good stuff from our talented team of analysts. Vishaal, mate, tell us about Underdog.
Yeah, so we do over underdogs during the halftime of Thursday Night Football. We make some of our favorite picks on Underdog Fantasy, just basic player props. So everybody picks 3, and then we pick a lock, so make sure everybody joins in tomorrow for Titans Packers at halftime. And then Friday we do our long show Locked In, where we talk about all of our favorite picks for the weekend. And then we have Underdog has World Cup offerings this year. So if you go to underdog.com, you go to the Pick'em section, you will find player props for all of the games. They have props for the first 4 games, one on Sunday and then 3 on Monday. So check those out and make sure to use promo code NONSENSE. Zach, you want to plug anything?
Footy Fixtures of the Week comes out every Friday morning. I will be doing World Cup edition, so even though there's going to be a lot less games per week, I will single out Yeah, just probably 3, 4, 5 games each week out of the multiple games a day that are worth tuning in for, and why. Although I would say every game is pretty much a must-watch game in this tournament. But
I'm going to start a little early, but I think Zach is saying you better be up 24/7 for the next month.
exactly, right. That's basically what I'm saying.
Sleep when you're dead. And I'm back. I heard what V had to say, and I get to run to Underdog to sign up. So make sure you use that promo code nonsense and get your good stuff over there. They got some nice over-unders for the World Cup games throughout the tournament. So there'll be some nice nuggets for you to enjoy. And if you want some more goodness from this, jump into our Discord. So go to patreon.com/important nonsense, and you'll hear from V, Zach, and the rest of our team. All that great content, all that good stuff, and all the good vibes indeed. Gentlemen, are there any parting words you'd like to share with our audience before we let you sign off for the night? Start with you, Zach.
I believe that I hope that we might be able to win.
Got to adjust our catchphrase here after the disappointment from last time, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the U.S. getting a win, I can see it. I'm not sure if it'll be Iran or Wales. Hey, it could be England on Black Friday, but they're in the tournament. They're back after an absence, and you're right. Let's get a win for them. V?
Let's get a win. Why not?
This is going to be a very fun 30 days. There's overlap between the World Cup and the back half of the NFL regular season. Like we said at the top, this is just going to be a wild 30 days. I don't know if we're ever going to have something as crazy as this anytime soon. So just everybody enjoy this time. There's going to be sports on kind of nonstop for the next month. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. So, yeah, make sure to get some sleep when you can. Drink some water in between matches. Don't get too drunk, and yeah, enjoy the matches and be good to each other. But other than that, my name is Nii Wallace-Bruce, NWB, and on behalf of the team, I'm signing off.